Alright, hello guys. Pardon me here, I thought I had this adjusted right, but I'm just going to readjust here. Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is comparing and ordering decimals. And so in order to order decimals, you have to be able to look at two decimals and compare them. So you have to be able to look at them and decide which one's greater, which one's smaller, or maybe even are they equal. And so when we compare decimals, we're often going to be using those signs that we know, less than, greater than, equal to. Okay, but when we order them, that's when we put them in number order, like 1, 2, 3, 4, and so on. Okay, and so that's something to think about when we're comparing them and ordering them. When we order them, we have to ask ourselves, are we going from smallest to largest, greatest to least, things like that. We're going to be looking out for those keywords when we have to put them in order. Okay, so first let's connect this to something we already know about and something we've learned, and I know you've known this for a long time. Like for instance, when we have numbers like here, 56,293, 56,923, 59,623, and 56,329. When I want to place those numbers in order, first I have to look at the place values. And so the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to start on the largest end of the number, which is the 10,000s place value spot, and I'm going to compare them. So since all of them have a 5 in the 10,000s place value spot, then I know that I have to start looking elsewhere to compare them, okay? And so the next place I'm going to look is in the thousand spot. Here I have a 6, a 6, a 9, and a 6, okay? And so I have this number here has a 9 in the thousand spot, whereas the other ones have a 6, which means this one is the greatest number, okay? So if I were going to order these from greatest to least, I know that this one is going to come first because it is the largest, okay? And so then I need to take a look at my other ones. Since these have a 6 in the thousands place value spot, now I'm going to move over to the hundreds. And so I have a 2, a 9, and a 3. So out of those, obviously, this guy here has a 9 in the hundred spot, so he's going to be greater than these other guys that have a 2 and a 3. Okay, so we're going to put him in an order of 2 because he's the next largest. And then the last thing I'm going to do is I'm going to compare these last two that haven't been ordered yet. And so I'm looking, again, still at the hundreds place value spot. Here I have a 300. This one only has a value of 200 in the hundred spot. So that means this one, it comes in third. And then this one, obviously, is the smallest number in my collection. Okay? So this is something that we already know. So now what we're going to do is we're going to be looking at numbers with decimals. So again, if you look, I've used the same numbers, except this time I have them with decimals in them. And I'm just doing the same steps. Okay, for all of these, I see that there's a 56 for the whole number. So right now they're all tied. They all have the same equal amount in the whole number. But now I'm moving over into the decimals, and that's where I have to look closely. Okay, this number has a 2 in the tenths place value spot. This has a 9, this has a 6, and this has a 3. So since the tenths place value spot has a greater value than hundredths or thousandths, then this number here actually is going to be a larger number. Okay, the only thing is with this one I changed, if you notice here, see it's not quite exactly the same. Okay, so for this one, this has a 9 in the tenths place value spot, so this number is the largest. I don't have to worry about anything else that appears in the number. Once I compare the tenths place value spot, the rest of this doesn't really matter if I see that this one's bigger in the tenths. Okay, so now I'm going to continue looking at the tenths place value spot. Here I have a 2 in the tenths place value spot, here I have a 6, and here I have a 3. So that means the 6 has a greater value, the 6 in the tenths place value spot has a greater value than the 3 and the 2. So then that means this guy here comes in second. The 2, 3 here doesn't matter since I didn't need to go farther into my number. And again, here I'm looking at the 3 and the 2 in the tenths place value spot. That means this one is the third largest. And then this one comes in last as the smallest. And if you noticed, I didn't need to look at the rest of these numbers because I was able to compare all 4 of them using the first 3 digits, using the 56.2, or 56 and 2/10, 56 and 9/10, 56 and 6/10, and 56 and 3/10. Okay, so now one of the things that you can do when you're comparing a set of decimals is to put them vertically, to order them vertically. And if you do this, when you're doing this, make sure that you line up the decimals. So that way you can compare them one at a time. Okay, and what I like to tell my students to do is compare them in order of place value. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to cover these guys up, and I'm going to reveal the one place value spot at a time. Okay, so right now we have a number that they're all in the hundreds place value spot. And so since this digit here has a 3 in the hundreds place value spot and the rest of them have 1s, then that means obviously this number is my largest. So I'm going to go ahead and number it as 1. Number 1 here, it's the largest, okay? And so then what I like to do before I even move on, sometimes it helps to just eliminate it from my view so I don't even have to focus on it, okay? So now I'm going to recover them again. And if you look, so now all of these have a value of 1 in the hundreds place value spot, so now I'm ready to look at the tens place value spot, okay? Here I have a 0, 3, 3, 0, 0. Okay, since these both have a 3 in them, I need to pay particular attention to both of these guys and see how they compare to each other. So I'm going to move my paper and only look at those two. Right now I have 130 for each one of them. So now I need to move into the decimal and still compare just these two numbers. So I have 130 and 4/10 and 130 and 6/10. Since 6/10 is going to be a greater amount than 4/10, then I know that this number here, 130 and 6/10, it doesn't matter what's in the rest of the decimal, is going to be a greater number. So that means this one places second in line, and then this one places third. Okay, so now since both of those are finished, I'm going to remove them from my view so I don't need to think about them any longer. And now I'm ready to compare those last three. So looking at these last three, these last three, here, here, and here, all three of them are worth 103 as far as a whole number. So now I need to move into the decimal to compare all three of them. And so here I have 103 and 4/10, 103 and 8/10, and 103 and 6/10. And so in this example here, 103 and 8/10 is going to be greater than these other two. So this one comes in at number 4. 103 and 6/10 is greater than 103 and 4/10. So this comes in at number 5. And then this comes in at number 6. And so if you'll notice, guys, I didn't even have to pay attention to the rest of these numbers. The reason for that is when you're comparing numbers one place value spot at a time, you may not need to look at the rest of the digit. Okay, if you're able to show greater than or less than with one place value spot, you may not need to look at the rest of the amount. It's kind of like saying, if I had $10.37 or $10.46, we know by looking at both of those that they are, you know which one is greater than and which one's less than. I know for sure I'd rather have $10.46 in my pocket than $10.37. If we use the same method of comparing one place value spot again with the other, here I have 1 in the 10 spots. There's my $10 because there's my decimal. And here I can see that 40 cents is going to be greater than 30 cents. So I don't need to look at the rest of my decimal to figure out which one is the greater amount. It's this guy right here. Okay, so it connects well, and think about it that same way with money as well. Okay, now the last example that we have, these numbers have different values and these numbers have different amounts of digits in them, and so we're going to again look at them one place value spot at a time and determine which one's largest, which one's smallest, and things like that. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at one place value spot. Okay, so first of all, figure out which one is the largest. Well, I have a lot of 6s here in the ones place value spot, and so therefore I need to look at the next place value spot. But I'm going to pay attention to them. So I'm going to put a dot beside them, so I know which ones I need to pay attention to. So I'm going to move over to the tenths place value spot. Okay, and only look at that. I have a 1, a 1, a 1, 3, 1, and 5. Okay, 6 and 5 tenths is going to be greater than 6 and 1 tenth, 6 and 3 tenths, and that's it. Okay, so that means this guy here, he's largest. Okay, and looking at all the other ones that I placed dots besides, all of them are 6.1 except for this one. This one automatically gets the vote for number 2. Okay, so now I'm ready to move on and take a look at these other ones that have dots beside them, and all of them have 6.1 beside them here. So let's move over to the hundredths place value spot. Okay, I have a 0 in the hundredths place value spot. I have a 3, a 0, and a 0. Okay, so since I'm comparing the hundredths place value spot, the 3 is going to beat out any of these zeros here. So again, I'm only looking at the ones I've placed dots besides. Okay, now I have a 6.10, a 6.10, and another 6.10. So let's move to the thousands to see how large they are. Okay, so this is 6.103, so that means 6 and 103 thousandths, 6 and 103 thousandths, or 6.10. Okay, if I have 6 and 103 thousandths, that's going to be greater than 6 and 10 hundredths. And remember, if I add a 0 here, that would be like saying 100 thousandths. So 103 thousandths beats out 100 thousandths. Okay, so now I'm going to take a look at these guys. These two right now are tied for 4th place. And so I'm going to move over again. Here I have an extra 0, but guess what? I don't have anything more on that number, but I can add on a 0 and it still has its same value. So these guys are actually tied for 4th. They have the same value. They're equal. Okay? So now let's go to our remaining guy that's left over that had the dot beside him. He has to be number 5. And now I'm ready to look at only these 2 digits that are left over, because I've placed all the other ones that had my orange markings beside. So here I have these two, 1.6 and 1.4031. Okay, so moving my paper backwards again, both of them have a value of 1. When I compare them in the tenths place value spot, one of them has a value of 6 in the tenth spot, the other one has a value of 4. So that means this decimal is larger than this one. So that means this is in the 6th spot, and this one comes in last at number 7. Okay? So some important things to take away from this activity. It doesn't matter the length of the decimal. This one has a pretty long decimal, but it came in last. So the length of the number in the decimal doesn't necessarily matter. Okay, it may have an impact on what you're doing, it may not. The other thing is to keep in mind that sometimes you might have numbers that have equal value, like this guy here and this guy here. Okay, and so we rank them the same. And then the last thing to keep in mind is sometimes you have to put in an extra 0 in order to compare decimals. So when I put in this extra 0 here, then it showed me that these 2 decimals were equal. Okay? All right, so one of the other important thing too to keep in mind is that you line up your decimals and you line up those numbers so that way you can compare one place value spot at a time. All right? Okay, good luck.